Okay. I will give attendees about 15 seconds to join the Zoom meeting. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alani Kiyoki, and I'm the Executive Officer of the Hawaii Medical Board. I have with me Randy Ho, who is also the Executive Officer, and Mark, the Secretary for the board for today's meeting. Welcome to the Hawaii Medical Board's hybrid meeting. Before the meeting is called to order, we will play a short video to explain the procedures for this meeting and how members of the public can participate and interact with the board during this meeting.
Welcome to the Professional and Vocational Licensing Virtual Board Meeting.
When the meeting begins momentarily, the chair will take a roll call, explain any specific rules for this particular board, and then move to public comment. The name of the board member will appear on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. For instance, this is board member Y, and this is board member E. Public testimony will be accepted at the beginning of the meeting and before each agenda item. You can indicate that you are ready to testify by clicking on the Raise Hand button being circled by the mouse on your screen now. At the appropriate time, the board will recognize you to speak and ask you to unmute your mic as shown here. Again, public testimony will be accepted at the beginning of the meeting and before each agenda item. Public attendees will not be able to unmute their microphone until recognized by the board. Public attendees who are recognized to testify will be asked to identify themselves by name and their affiliated organization if applicable. Please mute your microphone when you are finished speaking as a courtesy to others and members of the board. Public attendees will not be able to unmute themselves after the testimony is completed unless recognized again after raising their hand. At some point during the meeting, the board may choose to move into executive session. When the board moves into executive session, the board members' microphones and video feeds will be turned off, and a similar screen as you see now will be displayed. When the board returns from executive session, their microphones will be turned on as well as their video cameras.
Welcome again to the Professional and Vocational Licensing Virtual Board Meeting.
At this time, the chair will call the meeting to order and take a roll call, as well as explain any additional rules that may be specific to this board.
So the meeting will now come to order, and for those who are signing in or who are participating through internet access, I want to make a few comments. So to view the meeting and to provide oral testimony, please use the link at the top of your agenda. You'll be asked to enter your name, and the board requests that you enter your full name, but you may use a pseudonym or other identifier if you wish to remain anonymous. You'll also be asked for an email address, and you may fill in the field with any entry in the customary email format. For example, your username followed by the @ and the email domain, Gmail, Yahoo, for example, .com. Your microphone will be automatically muted. When the chairperson asks for public testimony, you may click the raise hand button found on your Zoom screen to indicate that you wish to testify about that agenda item. The chairperson will individually enable each testifier to unmute their microphone. When recognized by the chairperson, please unmute your microphone before speaking and mute your microphone after you finish speaking. For phone access, please note the following. So if you cannot get internet access, you may get audio only access by calling the Zoom phone number listed at the top of the agenda. Upon entering the number, you'll be prompted to enter the meeting ID, which is also listed at the top of the agenda. After entering the meeting ID, you will be asked to enter your panelist number or wait to be admitted into the meeting. You will not have a panelist number. So please wait until you're admitted into the meeting. When the chairperson asks for public testimony, you may indicate you want to testify by entering the star sign and then the number 9 on your phone's keypad. After entering the star sign and then the number 9, a voice prompt will let you know that the host of the meeting has been notified. When recognized by the chairperson, you may unmute yourself by pressing the star sign and then the number 6 on your phone. A voice prompt will let you know that you are unmuted. Once you are finished speaking, please enter the star sign, then the number 6 again to mute yourself. For both internet and phone access, when testifying, you'll be asked to identify yourself and the organization, if any, that you represent. Each testifier will be limited to 5 minutes of testimony per agenda item. If connection to the meeting is lost for more than 30 minutes, the meeting will be continued on a specified date and time. This information will be provided on the board's website. And instructions to attend the State of Hawaii virtual board meetings may also be found online at the board's website. So at this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order. And I'd like to start, first of all, with a roll call of the members. And so please indicate, particularly for those of you who are participating virtually, whether you are alone. So I'm Danny Takanishi, Oahu member and current chairperson. I'm present and I'm alone. Mr. Gary Belcher.
Present and alone.
Dr. Franklin Dow. Dr. Andrew Fong.
Present and alone.
Dr. Elizabeth Ignacio.
Present and alone.
Dr. Michael Jaffe.
Present and alone.
Mr. Wesley Munn.
Present and alone.
Dr. Angela Pratt. I believe she's not able to attend this meeting. Dr. Rebecca Sawai.
Present and alone.
And Dr. Jerry Young.
Present and alone.
So first of all, I'd like to note that if there is anyone here present in this meeting, both virtually and in person, if you would like to provide testimony on your behalf, please note that as we go through the application materials, we will invite you into our executive session where you may provide testimony. And so I think that it's important to note that. Okay. So going forward, the first order of business, if I can entertain a motion to approve the minutes, and I double check that we do have all of these minutes. The minutes of the open session on January 18th, 2024 and February 8th, 2024. So if I can entertain a motion for those two items first of all. Can I have a motion? I'm going to take them separately. So it would be approval of the minutes, item 2, but specifically for C and D. Motion to approve the open session meeting minutes of the January 18th and February 8th, 2024 meeting.
Motion to approve, Ignacio.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ignacio. Is there a second?
Young, second.
Thank you, Dr. Young. Any further discussion?
Dr. Takanishi, this is Gary Belcher.
Yes.
I have a correction to make on the February 8th, 2024 open session minutes.
Mm-hmm.
On page 25, paragraphs 1 and 2, there's reference to question number 6 on the application for licensure by endorsement.
Mm-hmm.
Have you actively practiced medicine in another jurisdiction for at least 2 of the immediate preceding 5 years? Be amended to flag applicants who had completed the first 2 years of residency, but not the last 3. Actually, this refers to 5 years of active practice through the endorsement application. So it would be, have you been in practice for 2 of the last 5 years? So if someone had been in practice for years 1 and 2, but they hadn't been in practice for years 3, 4, and 5, there might be like a re-entry requirement on the part of the board. So it's separate, not related to residency. Thank you.
Okay. Any other Thank you, Mr. Belcher. And we'll make sure that accordingly the staff will make that edit. Any other comments, questions, Dr. Sawai?
I have a procedural question. If I was present for the January meeting, but not the February meeting, do I participate with the January meeting minutes and abstain from the February meeting minutes, or can I approve both even if I wasn't present?
That's a good question. Technically, because you were not present, abstaining for a particular meeting would be the most sense. So perhaps maybe if it's acceptable to the two individuals that made the motion, Doctors Ignacio and Young, that we will retract those motions as we haven't acted on them. And instead, I'll take a motion for approval for the January 18th open session meeting.
So moved, Ignacio.
Thank you, Dr. Ignacio. Is there a second?
Second, Young.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Young. Any further discussion specifically on the open session meeting minutes of January 18, 2024? Mr. Munn?
You know, I was looking at the Zoom webinar participants, and I don't remember a Doogie Howser being on the meeting. Was that a specific position on?
So we pull the attendance list from Zoom directly. So the members of the public can sign in with any meeting they choose.
Okay, I got it. I thought that was a joke. Okay, thank you.
Not at all.
Okay. But thank you for asking that question of clarity. Okay. Any other comments or questions or edits related to the open session minutes of January 18, 2024? Okay, there being none, all those in favor, please raise your hands. Okay, that is unanimous, so I would not take a roll call. So now if I can entertain a motion on the minutes of the February 8, 2024 meeting.
Belcher, motion to approve the February 8th, 2024 open session minutes.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second? Mr. Munn, was that your hand up? Okay, thank you.
1 second.
Thank you, Mr. Munn. Okay, and so Mr. Belcher, we will take it that you would like to enter into the record the edits for the February 8, 2024 minutes as you had prior stated during this session.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Any other edits or comments? And we can take that as a friendly amendment. Mhm. Okay, there being none, the motion on the floor is as to approve with the edits as noted by Mr. Belcher. And so on this one, I presume that Dr. Sawai is going to abstain. Okay, so any other abstentions? Any nays? Okay, I'm going to take a roll call since it was not unanimous. So Danny Takanishi, Oahu member, I vote in approval. Mr. Gary Belcher.
Approve.
Dr. Dao is excused. Dr. Andrew Fong.
Approve.
Dr. Elizabeth Ignacio.
Approve.
Dr. Michael Jaffe.
Approve.
Mr. Wesley Munn.
Approve.
Okay, Dr. Angela Pratt has also been excused from this meeting. And Dr. Jerry Young.
Approve.
Okay, so the minutes of the February 8, 2024 meeting carries with the edit as noted. All right, so the next two I'd like to take together, but with the caveat that if there are any edits to these minutes that require discussion, we can discuss that in executive session should the board choose so. But otherwise, if I can at this time entertain a motion for approval, I'll do it separately just to be sure. Approval of the October 12, 2023 executive session minutes.
Belcher, motion to approve the October 12th, 2023 executive session minutes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Belcher. Is there a second to that?
Young,
Jack.
second.
Thank you, Dr. Young. Any discussion or any edits to those minutes? Okay, I see no hands. There being none, all those in favor, please raise your hands. Okay, all right, it's unanimous, so I will not do a roll call. And then finally, under item number 2, approval of minutes, if I can entertain a motion for approval of the December 14th, 2023 executive session minutes.
So moved, Ignacio.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ignacio. Is there a second?
Jaffe, second.
Thank you, Dr. Jaffe. Any further discussion or any edits?
Danny, I
Yeah.
was not present during for the December meeting, so I'll
Okay.
be abstaining.
Okay, thank you for that, Dr. Young. Any edits or additional comments? There being none, any abstentions? I believe that's going to be Dr. Young. Any additional abstentions? Any nays? All right, I'll do a formal roll call. So Danny Takanishi, Oahu member, I vote in favor. Mr. Gary Belcher,
In favor.
Dr. Dao is excused from this meeting. Dr. Andrew Fong,
Approve.
Dr. Elizabeth Ignacio,
Approve.
Dr. Michael Jaffe,
In favor.
Mr. Wesley Munn,
Approve.
Dr. Angela Pratt is excused from this meeting. Dr. Rebecca Sawai.
Approve.
Okay, so that motion carries. So at this time, if I could ask all to mute your microphones and turn your videos off, and we will recess into adjudicatory session. Okay, so we have now come out of our adjudicatory session, and I just want to announce that, well, first of all, let me just take a quick roll call, just to be sure that the board members are all present. Quick roll call: Danny Takanishi, Oahu member, present. Mr. Gary Belcher.
Present.
Dr. Franklin Dow is excused. Dr. Andrew Fong.
Present.
Dr. Elizabeth Ignacio.
Present.
Dr. Michael Jaffe.
Present.
Mr. Wesley Munn.
Present.
Dr. Angela Pratt is excused. Dr. Rebecca Sawai.
Present.
And Dr. Jerry Young.
Present.
Okay, thank you. So on the adjudicatory matter of the license of Dr. Kilian Dandala, the board had approved the settlement agreement. And on the matter of the physician license of Dr. Lynn Romero, the board had also approved the settlement agreement. Before I entertain a motion to enter into executive session, are there any public members that would like to provide any testimony, with the caveat that in case those joined after I made the original announcement, if any of the public members are here to speak on behalf of your personal application for licensure or request to have conditions removed from license, you will be invited into our executive session to provide your testimony, so that you would not need to provide your testimony here. So with that caveat, any attendees want to provide any testimony?
Thank you, Chair. This is Johnny. We do not have anyone requesting to provide testimony.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lee. All right, with that, if I can entertain a motion to enter into executive session.
So I motion.
Thank you, Dr. Swire. Is there a second?
1 second.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Munn. All those in favor, please raise your hands. It is unanimous, so we will mute and turn our videos off and enter Teams.
Dr. So Dr. Eisen, but if you can hear me in Zoom, can you please check your email for Teams link? Dr. Eisenbud? So Johnny or Mia? Dr. Eisenbud, if you can hear me, there was a Teams invite email to you, both by the medical board email. Okay,
For example, we have individuals who are licensed.
Hold on 1 second, guys.
Dr. Julio, we sent you a Microsoft Teams link to join the meeting. Please check your email. Thank you.
medical malpractice
Okay, we are back in open session. I would now take a roll call. And so Danny Takanishi, Oahu member, present. Mr. Gary Belcher,
Present.
Dr. Franklin Dow is excused. Dr. Rick Fong,
Present.
Dr. Elizabeth Ignacio,
Present.
Dr. Michael Jaffe,
Present.
Mr. Wesley Munn,
Present.
Dr. Angela Pratt is excused. Dr. Rebecca Sawai,
Present.
and Dr. Jerry Young.
Present.
Okay, so we will now take motion on the applications. The first is if I can entertain a motion on the application of Dr. Bowie.
I move to deny Dr. Bowie's application for a Hawaii medical license. I'd like to cite HRS 436B-19, Section 5, 7, 9, 13, 15, and 17. HRS Section 453-8A, Section 6, 7, 9, 11, 15, and subsection C. HAR 16-85-107, subsection A, numbers 1, 2, and 3, and AMA number 2.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
Dr. Young seconds it.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. Okay, that carries unanimously. On the motion, on the matter of licensure for Dr. Eisenbud, if I can entertain a motion.
Dr. Jaffe, I move to support licensure for Dr. Eric Eisenbud without restriction.
Okay, is there a second to the motion?
Belcher, second.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Belcher. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. Okay, that carries unanimously. On the matter of licensure for Dr. Keller, I move to grant licensure. Is there a second?
So I
Second.
second.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, it carries unanimously. On the matter of licensure for Dr. Taylor Crawford, if I can entertain a motion.
This is Dr. Young. I move to approve the nomination of Karen Taylor Crawford, MD, for licensure, provided that this physician provide information on the yes answer for 12B as in boy.
Is there a second to that?
Jaffe, second.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, and just as a friendly amendment to the two of you, with the proviso that the applicant for licensure provides response to that particular item that is satisfactory to the board. Okay, there being no further discussion, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, that carries unanimously. On the matter of licensure for Dr. Trujillo, if I can entertain a motion.
This is Dr. Elizabeth Ignacio, and I move to approve the application for licensure for Dr. Trujillo.
Is there a second?
Dr. Young
Belcher,
second.
second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, that carries unanimously. On the matter of licensure of Dr. Upton.
This is Dr. Sawai. I recommend to defer the application.
Is there a second?
Munn seconds.
Okay, and just for clarity, you're deferring the application pending the passage of the,
Documentation. Yeah, of the
examination
specs exam.
required to meet
Yes.
eligibility. Okay.
Correct, yes.
And
Thank you.
Mr. Munn, are you, is that acceptable to you as a friendly amendment to the original motion?
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor of deferral, please raise your hands. Okay, that carries unanimously. And then on the request to have conditions removed for license for physician assistant Timothy Roy Smith, I move to remove conditions on the license. Can I have a second?
Jaffe, second.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hands. Okay, that carries unanimously. All right. Before you is the ratification list. If I can have a motion for approval of the ratification lists for licensure.
So I move to approve.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Swai. Is there a second?
Jaffe, second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay.
I
All those.
Dr. Takanishi, I'm
Yes.
sorry to interrupt. If we can go back to Mr. Smith, Dr. Sawai and Dr. Young recuse themselves.
Yes.
That has to be noted in the motion and the vote.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. So on the matter of the removal of conditions for licensure for Troy Smith, what I will do is I will take a roll call. And so the motion is to remove conditions of the license. So is there a second?
Ignacio, second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay. So I'm going to do a roll call. Danny Takanishi. I move to approve. I support that. Mr. Belcher.
I support it as well.
Okay. Dr. Dao is excused. Dr. Rick Fong.
Approve.
Okay. Dr. Elizabeth Ignacio.
Approve.
Dr. Michael Jaffe.
Approve.
Mr. Wesley Munn.
Approve.
Dr. Angela Pratt is excused. Dr. Rebecca Sawai. Are you abstaining?
Abstain.
Okay. Dr. Jerry Young.
I abstain.
Okay. Thank you. The motion carries. So now, if I can go back and entertain a motion to approve the ratification lists before you for licensure.
So I still moves to approve.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Swai, and
Jaffe, seconds.
Jaffe still second. Okay, thank you. Any further discussion on that? All right, all those in favor, please raise your hands. Okay, it carries unanimously. All right, so moving on to the legislative session. Before you, you have the Excel spreadsheet that has 4 rows of bills before you. And so the one that I wanted to just bring up for input for the staff is the first one that has to do with the gender affirming healthcare. As you can see, it has the table provides all of the information. Now, the board had supported the measure at a prior meeting, and since then, an individual from the Deputy Director for Law Enforcement, State of Hawaii, had submitted an email noting that they are in opposition to the bill because of the fact that they oppose any measure that allows for out-of-state prescribing of controlled substances, and also one which allows for prescribing controlled substances without the benefit of a face-to-face in-person physical exam as specified in the definition of the bona fide prescriber patient relationship definition in Chapter 329. And because of this, and the concern, in the words of the Deputy Director of Law Enforcement, the concern for the potential for unscrupulous prescribing, they believe that the opposition is critical to reducing the number of controlled substance prescriptions in general, which is part of the goals of the Hawaii Opioid Initiative. And they will accordingly submit testimony to this bill as it moves through the legislature. So I wanted to see if there's any comments or thoughts from the board members.
So I have a question. Are they stating that in their commentary, when they submit testimony, they're going to be submitting oppositional testimony or just comments saying this is, you know, there's this conflict with this other statute?
They're going to oppose the bill on this basis.
So it seems to me that the issue is about prescribing androgens like testosterone and whatnot, which are Schedule III drugs and are controlled substances. You know, again, relaxing the requirements of prescribing certain controlled substances seems that might be reasonable. It's not all controlled substances.
So one option that I think we do have is to determine whether or not we support the concept that that the Deputy Director of Law Enforcement is putting forth, that the specificity has to do with the controlled substances. And again, what the individual had pointed out was because this is also aligned with the goals of the Hawaii Opioid Initiative. And this is where I thought, you know, it would be helpful to see what the board's perspective was, because as you can see in the last column, the board had actually supported this measure. But I don't think that the board, that we were looking at it in the context of opioids. So I guess, yeah, Dr. Sawai?
I think that I would still support the idea of being able to prescribe some controlled substances, maybe restrict the types. I think Schedule II controlled substances, I would have significant concerns about remotely prescribing or without a better documented relationship between the provider and the patient. But I do think that some of these other medications that do require prescriptions and are therefore controlled could be conceivably safely prescribed in a remote fashion. I don't know how other people on the board feel about that.
So I think I would agree with the opposition for this. I think it opens a door that might be hard to close later on.
Okay. My sense is, not to lead the witness, but my sense is we all would share the same concerns about the opioid. I think we supported it because of the spirit of the measure or the bill that had to do with the context of the gender affirming, the gender affirming healthcare. But the opioids, I don't think was a component that we had considered. But again, this is why these things are so important, because everyone looks at these things through a different lens. So law enforcement, it's not unusual, would look at it from this lens.
I think, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Did I interrupt you? If you please continue.
No. What I was thinking of is I was going to see if there was any public testimony on this, but I noticed that in the attendee room, the only public member in there is a Chiara Latini. So please go ahead, Dr. Ignacio.
When I looked at this bill and I looked at the committee reports from the judicial committee, it was interesting because they had testimony in support and opposition, and I appreciate their comments where they said that they, I'm bringing it up now. They said they support that an individual's right to obtain gender-affirming healthcare services, and I think that that's what we would want as well, the board. But of course, to be lawfully so within the regulations of our state in terms of prescribing. So I don't know if it's better to say we would, because we didn't submit testimony ourselves on this. We just supported it.
Mhm.
Did we write testimony in support?
Yeah, it's there.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I thought that we had just supported it and we're tracking, but okay.
Yeah. And the way it's written, it looks like I think Randy was the one that presented this.
Oh, I
that-
see.
That it says that the basically it supports the amendment. But again, I don't think when we you know, it's a one-page testimony that's in the packet. But again, I don't think they were specifically thinking of opioids.
Right.
Mhm.
So
So
if it goes to, it's going to go, it's crossed over, right?
yeah, Thursday was today. Yeah, yeah. So this is the crossover day, the first crossover. Mhm. So I guess maybe the easiest place to start is, do we support what law enforcement perspective is, which is very narrow, doesn't cover the entire bill. But do we support that component of it? That while we do support the bill in principle, that we also do support the concerns that law enforcement has raised related to opioids.
What does that mean, Danny, if we support both sides?
Well, then what happens is the testimony that we would subsequently submit would still look like what's in front of us, but would specify the caveat or the exception. And then the legislators can, I mean, they can throw it out, or they can, you know, put a proviso in there that specifically extracts opioids. Mr. Mon?
Generally, we could actually recommend an amendment to the bill to change the language involved. But I don't think that would be our board's decision to make, because, you know, theoretically, once a governmental agency opposes a bill, we can't testify against them. So if law enforcement says this is illegal, theoretically, we have to follow suit. I don't know if Alani's still there. What do you think?
And
I
Shari?
see Sherry's there as well. From a policy perspective, we usually, you know, defer to the lead agency. So for section 1 specifically, that would be the Department of Law Enforcement. Section 1 is a section that amends chapter 329 and would allow schedules 3 and 4 to be prescribed via telehealth only. So without the requirement of the face-to-face, in-person establishment of that relationship, the doctor-patient relationship. If you look at your past testimony, all you testified was on sections 6 and 7 of the bill, which amended your chapter directly. So it amended 453.8 and 453.8.6. So you can continue to provide support of those sections and make your testimony clearer to defer to the Department of Law Enforcement.
I think that if everyone agrees, I think that's reasonable.
Thank you, Alani, for making that clear. And
Yeah,
then,
yeah.
and that we're not in, that we feel something should be done about Schedule 2 opiates not being part of this bill. Yeah, being excluded.
Okay. All right. So unless anyone else has any questions about the other three, it would make sense that we just continue to track it. And in the remaining time that we have, I do think we got all of the business that needs to move ahead done. Agenda item 6, A, B, C, D, E. Because we're limited on time, if board members have any questions, concerns, or want input, they put these out to the entire community anyway. Please feel free to email Alani and Randy, and they'll make sure that gets forwarded onto the Federation. Yeah, Dr. Jaffe?
Yeah, I just want to say I did fill this out in October of 2023 about the opiate use disorder commentary on how they could amend that and work with it. So
Okay.
I put in my 2 cents.
Okay. And then I think, the other thing that I did want to mention was that Alani, Dr. Jaffe had brought this up, and remember we discussed it at the board, so I submitted this info. And so Alani has been selected to receive one of the Federation of State Medical Boards Distinguished Leadership Award at the upcoming April meeting.
Yay.
So that brings up, I think, the final business. I'm looking on my phone. We have exactly 4 minutes because we're going to defer the USMLE step 3 to our next meeting. But one of the things is, first of all, I have to entertain a motion and a vote to discuss the context of the delegates for the April meeting. And because it didn't make it to the agenda, but there's 8 of us. If 8 are in unison to make it official, then I'd like to get an endorsement for that. So, as a new item of business, there's 8 of us. The agenda item would be to discuss the role of the delegate role at the upcoming Federation of State Medical Board meeting, because each state has a delegate, sometimes more depending on the size of the state. Hawaii has 1. And so to sort of make it official, I actually have to be there, not just because I'm one of the elected nominating committee members. And so I was actually gonna shamelessly ask for support, your support for me to serve as a delegate. But I just, wanted 8 people. So
I move to support Danny Takanishi to be a delegate.
I support you as
okay.
I agree.
All those in favor? Okay.
If I may, just procedurally, we need to
Yeah.
have a vote to add it to the agenda. That motion needs to be made and voted on. Once the agenda is revised and we add the FSMB delegate, then a separate agenda can be made to have Dr. Takanishi serve as the board's delegate.
Okay, so is there a motion to make that an agenda item?
Motion.
Okay, thank you. So moved by Dr. Sawai. Is there a second?
Second, Jaffe.
Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, so it carries. And then the motion then is to support me as the representative delegate. All those in favor?
Second.
Yeah, second, and all those in favor? Okay, thank you. And then we can send, I think, 1 other delegate. And so I would like to nominate Gary Belcher as a public member.
I'll second that.
Okay, all right. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, it carries. We got 1 more minute left. I think, Alani, that constitutes our business, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay, so at 4:29, we will adjourn, and thank you very much, everyone. We just made it through.
Under the wire.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, so Alani, I apologize. So I was going in and out of the mute thing. I put Dr.